Welcome back. As you know, there is to be a restart. They'll be rolling off for the formation lap in just under 2 minutes. You see Jarno Trulli there getting a last little blast of cool air from that fan. Now, coming this Friday, March 23rd, we will have the first round of the Speed Vision World Challenge from Texas Motor Speedway. The Touring Car Championship airs at 8 p.m. Eastern and again at 9 p.m. Pacific time. Round 1 of the GT Championship follows the touring cars at 9 Eastern and 10 Pacific. The guys working on the World Challenge this year have more onboard cameras, more views of the action than we've ever seen, and you will not want to miss the Speed Vision World Challenge on Friday night beginning at 8 Eastern. It's going to be terrific. Mika Hakkinen, no stranger to restarts, of course, stays very calm under conditions like this.
Well, you know, I was just looking at the Benetton crew there again and recognized one of the Renault mechanics' faces, and the stress and strain on the guy's face, you know, already before the race is getting underway, I'm sure they're going to have problems. I very, very much doubt that Benetton are going to see the checkered flag this race.
Nobody likes these restarts, of course. As we said, we saw all that dry ice being packed into these cars when they first rolled up on the grid. Then they went and did that slow lap, so the engines and everything got pretty hot, and then they have to stop and get even hotter. So
Steve, you said it sometimes scrambles up the tools as well.
Well, what happens, you see, every tool, every front jack, rear jack, everything has got its correct position and only one position to be in that garage, so there's no possibility of a fumble. But on a restart, if you get somebody that's a bit panicky, a new guy joins the team, he rushes, grabs somebody else's jack, you turn around, there isn't the tools there to lift your car up. Pandemonium can break out. I've had that sort of 3 or 4 times.
Good view of this banana nose on the Ferrari. See how the nose scoops back up under the backward of the rear of the front wing.
Incredibly trick end plates too.
Yeah,
the little winglets sticking out on the end of the end plate. Really an incredibly high-tech thing. They spent a lot of time. Now there's the marshal standing in front of Fisichella, so the field is going to pull around. Uh-oh, we've got another car stalled on the grid there now. That's not Fisichella's car. That's Montoya's car. Oh, wow. Don't say we've got to go through that whole procedure again.
There goes some of that dry ice.
Now, yeah, there's all the dry ice that we're talking about coming straight out of the car. You'll see that at turns 1, 2, 3, not so much because it's too sweeping, but 4 again when they put the brakes on. You expect to see that in the race, but if that car doesn't get off in time, and I suspect that BMW are going to have a problem getting that thing fired up in the heat, if they've got heat build under there, we could see yet again another restart coming. You can see the other guys looking in dismay that the fact they can't get that car started, that's going to delay the start again, I'm sure.
How frustrating for Montoya after that wonderful qualifying session yesterday. Boy, oh boy, this is turning into a bit of a fiasco here.
Montoya is going to have to put that straightaway speed to some use, at least in the early going, picking
there you see that turn 7 and 8, a good shot of up there then. That straightaway there, they're about 175 into that very tight turn 9. Are they pushing him off the grid, or what are they doing? They're going to have a job to get him off the grid.
What a blow. Montoya had no practice at all on Friday, responded brilliantly yesterday.
Well, that's Carl Galen again. It's the Williams chief mechanic this time, desperate to get that car off, get it into the pit lane. That's about the best thing they can hope to do at this stage, is get it into the exit of the pit lane and start the car from there. At least that way they're going to be able to get the car in the race, if they can get it fired up.
Montoya's out. He's going to
get the spare car. Montoya running off for the spare car by the look of things.
Now,
this again will cause a lot of problems because they've got to get that car fired up. They've got to get it up to temperature down at the end of the grid, down at the end of the pit lane exit.
And Montoya has to get his heart rate back down from a run.
And of course there's probably a lot of doubt if he can actually start from the spare without some sort of contretemps. I'm not sure that you can just, your car doesn't start. Can you just jump into the spare?
Well, at the moment it's not a problem because no car has taken the start, if you see what I mean. So they should be okay to use the spare because no car has taken the start of the race yet. Fortunately for Williams, the spare car is set up for Montoya. Now we noticed they had a lot of trouble before. Swapping the thing over from driver to driver takes a lot of time.
They will take the start before he gets in it, surely.
There's no way.
Or is that why he's running so fast?
Frantically trying.
There's Fisichella pulling up at the back now.
Yeah, he'll take the start. The start of the race will occur before Montoya takes to the race, but he hasn't started in his own race car, so there shouldn't be a problem with him using the spare car.
Okay, well here's the lights. We'll watch the lights change, and we'll will lay out to let you hear the sound. Brilliant start by Schumacher again.
Strong start by Trulli.
Trulli, too.
Ralph looking good.
Oh.
Contact. Spun. Ralph has spun, and he's right in the way. He's going to be hit. Nope. Both Williams cars so promising moments ago.
There's one of the Jags, Eddie Irvine.
There you can see the dry ice that came out on the parade lap, on the formation lap. Now that stuff's not going to help traction either.
Ferrari's already in control of the race, but you can see the width of the track allowing many of the cars to run abreast back there in the middle part of the field. Barrichello in second. Raikkonen.
Kimi Raikkonen there.
Who scored points in his first outing last week, 2 weeks ago in Australia at Melbourne, out of this race right off the bat.
Jos Verstappen, my hero, is up to 6th spot in the arrows. An amazing start for Jos Verstappen. He's qualified on the 9th row. That is a start.
Two Ferraris.
And Fisichella also made an incredible start. From the back, he's now up to 12th.
Jordan's 3rd and 5th. Strong showing for Jordan with the new Honda engine aboard.
Pretty devastating first lap for the rest of the field there for Michael Schumacher. 1.3 seconds, nearly 1.4 seconds ahead of his teammate. Jarno Trulli making a good start there. David Coulthard also making a brilliant start. David Coulthard coming up from 8th. And now Mika Hakkinen is up to 8th. Olivier Panis doing well there.
Coulthard and Hakkinen basically switched places.
John Lacey having a good run too, up to 11th from 14th.
Right now, this track, which has been a Ferrari track since its inception 18 months ago, this is the 3rd race run here. Both of the other races have been won by Ferraris. Once again, Ferrari in control.
And look at the gap already opening up between Barrichello and the Jordan behind him. You know, it's amazing how quick they can sort of put their stamp of authority on the race.
Whoa, what up there? Is that an engine gone?
Smoke from one of the BARs.
Big time smoke.
They their Honda engine, which has been so reliable all through the winter, hardly ever had any problems. Panis out. One of the BARs out right off the bat. A major.
Well, it certainly
out.
looks as if something's happened. Either the engine blew and he spun off, or an oil pipe let go and he spun off on his own oil.
Panis on the road finished 4th two weeks ago in Melbourne. Was penalized for illegal passing maneuver, dropped to 7th out of the points. So he is now starting to have a discouraging season.
Looking there, holding on to that steering wheel. He needs to get back to the car to put the wheel on. The leader to leave the car without the wheel. David Coulthard made a staggering start there from down in the middle of the pack.
He was in 8th. He was gridded on 8th.
Verstappen too. It's just extraordinary.
Word is there's some rain, David. This could change.
The guy that lost out badly there was Mika Hakkinen too. But and of course Ralf Schumacher with that spin at turn 1. Jolly lucky Ralf Schumacher that he wasn't tagged by somebody, and obviously lucky for everybody else that they didn't tag him.
Look at that gap opening up back to Jarno Trulli.
The prospect of rain arriving is really going to open this race right up now.
Boy,
because
I'd say so.
we had a couple.
Whoa! Michael Schumacher.
Straight off the defending world.
Well, that goes there's the end of his 6th in a row.
Both Ferraris
It
are
must be
off.
raining there.
They've hit, it's Panis's oil or the rain
Wow.
or a combination of both.
Panis's oil.
Incredible.
I'm not sure that either of the Ferraris was damaged, but they obviously got to it first and may not have been adequate
I
signaling.
guess there was not adequate signaling there, so Jarno Trulli now leads. Of course, he would have got the signal.
Jarno Trulli out front in a Jordan Honda. Think of that. Trulli hasn't led a race since the Austrian Grand Prix of '97.
His first year.
Yep, his first year
In a Prost.
in a cross. Brilliant drive.
Well, now we'll see how much Michael Schumacher is worth to Ferrari as a driver.
Boy, oh
His
boy. So
streak
Jarno, look at the rain coming down. Jarno truly leads now from David Coulthard. Big decision here. No, well, he obviously can't go in this lap. Is anybody going to go in? No, they're not going in.
Now, the pit lane entrance, you can see at the top of the screen there. It's right at the top of the apex of the hairpin going in from the back straight to the front straight.
Whoa, there's the oil. You can see it on the track.
And you can
Both
see
of them get caught out.
both of them were caught out, and there was no signaling anywhere in evidence. They both made it through the sandy part, guys, and Barrichello made the most of it, actually took the lead, or the Ferrari team lead away from Schumacher there.
Jeepers.
It was almost as if Barrichello was following Schumacher's every move there, even if it meant going off the circuit.
Here we go for the tire changes.
Wow,
it's raining
look
that hard.
at the rain.
This is the monsoon season.
Torrential rain. They'll have to come in. It's impossible. It won't be possible to do any more than one lap on this circuit now because there'll be so much oil lifting out of the tarmac.
One of the Minardi's in. Tarso Marquez.
Another thing we've got to be very careful of here in these conditions, and we've talked about it in the past, is those cars have got to be very careful coming out of the pit lane when they're having tyre changes. Notice how none of the mechanics look ready for this. They haven't got the right protective gear on. Ferrari have, and they wear it all the while, but the Jaguar mechanics have not got the protective
Now, those
gear
aren't
on.
full wet tyres, are they? Aren't they the intermediates?
I believe they're intermediate tyres. It's very difficult to tell the difference. Both tyre companies, Bridgestone and Michelin, have brought intermediates and wets and a monsoon tyre.
Oh, safety car coming out. Wow, now that's going to throw the cat among the pigeons with all those people having already made stops.
This race is in a condition of chaos right now.
And right behind the pace car is that Jensen Button in the Benetton. Wow,
Look
it is
at
wet
that.
there, isn't it?
It went from absolutely dry. Heidfeld out.
Nick Heidfeld's out of the race.
So both Saubers are now out. Both Saubers finished in the points 2 weeks ago. What a difference this is. Look at how helpless
That car is going nowhere.
Nick Heidfeld, I still feel a very promising driver, finally getting a chance at least a mediocre car. Last year he had just a terrible car. Look at that rain.
Wow. Jarno Trulli, who was leading, has spun. Has he got away without hitting anything?
Boy, oh boy, what a bizarre
Barrichello
couple
has
of
spun.
laps.
Obviously the oil seeping up, as Steve explained, through the track. Look at this. At least we don't know which. I think it might have been Verstappen's. This is extraordinary. I mean, at least a third of the cars are off, whether that's Panis's car or Villeneuve's, we don't know.
Wow, this is going to be a real major shuffle.
Whoa, look at this.
And one of the Prosts off too, of course.
I think there are more cars off the track right now than on it.
Well, this is absolute monsoon
this is
conditions.
monsoon conditions.
And curiously enough, this is exactly what the guys from Bridgestone were saying, that it isn't possible really for them to produce a monsoon tyre to cope with torrential rain conditions that can occur in Malaysia. They can build a monsoon tyre, yeah, but they can't build it for that condition, and especially on this circuit with that oil coming out of it.
Yeah, Montoya there in the gravel trap. David Coulthard.
Look at Michael waiting back there. They're attending to Barrichello while Michael Schumacher waits to have his tires changed.
It looks pandemonium, but in fact, it's possibly the best thing to do, you know, because if Michael goes out on this circuit, spins off into the tyres, is out of the race, in these awful conditions, probably the most wise decision from the pit lane is for Michael to come in, sit and wait.
But could he overheat
think he
trying
wants
to
to wait.
keep the engine running?
I don't think he wants to wait that long.
It will have switched off.
David Coulthard in the lead. Boy, oh boy, just look at that water.
It is deep. They are going to aquaplane, and those under the body.
Wow, Michael Schumacher still waiting. There's waiting and there's waiting. This
Because
is
obviously
pretty...
they just had a brutal time with Barrichello's. They took over a minute there to get the work done.
Well, they lost one of the tyres. I think it was the right front tyre. They couldn't find for Barrichello. That's held them up enormously. Okay, maybe that pit stop would have taken a long time anyway.
seconds.
But, I mean, losing the tyre has now delayed Michael as well. But I still think really wise decision to bring the reigning champion in and just switch the engine off as opposed to risk going out in those conditions. And yet there, look, there's hardly a spot of rain on the circuit.
It's obviously just running across the track at one end, isn't it? I mean, that is unbelievable, the difference between this end and the other end.
It doesn't
Steve,
look
no
like
matter
it's been
what,
raining.
though, the point is that Michael Schumacher has just lost 1 minute waiting for his turn in the pits, which is incredible.
It's absolutely unbelievable.
And it also underscores the point that there is just one pit crew per team. In other words, each car does not have a crew. There's one pit crew per team, so that they can only work on one car at a time.
That is pretty scandalous. He would have to wait for a minute before he can come out.
Well, we have certainly seen an incredibly dramatic development. We're going to take a break for a short period of time, and we will be right back. Stay with us.
Is that right? That what we see? Welcome back to the Malaysian Grand Prix, where we see the safety car out because we've had an absolutely torrential downpour on one side of the circuit. And there you see the top 6 after 4 laps. Barrichello, Frentzen, Jos Verstappen, Mika Hakkinen, Jarno Trulli, John Lacey, and in 11th spot is Michael Schumacher, who's no doubt absolutely fuming after having to wait for 1 minute and 12 seconds for Barrichello to have his pit stop, which has dropped Michael down to 11th.
Interestingly, Fisichella is 7th and Ralf Schumacher 8th, which, given the problems that they had, this is a tremendous reprieve for both those guys.
Ralf Schumacher there, who's in 8th spot after that first lap spin.
Look at the damage to the right barge board of Barrichello's car there. The rear stay of the barge board on the right-hand side has been knocked loose and the barge board's hanging down.
Presumably that was part of the delay as they tried to fix that while Michael Schumacher waited and presumably fumed.
I think he did fume.
And it looks actually to me like the left-hand barge board's completely missing. We'll have to have another look at that next time we get a good shot of Barrichello's car. It looks like the left-hand barge board's gone, the right-hand one was nearly gone.
So there you see the running order now. It's changed again. David Coulthard's right behind the pace car. Frentzen in 2nd. Verstappen in 3rd. Hakkinen in 4th. Trulli 5th. And Jean Alesi, who is no doubt a Rainmeister, in 6th spot.
In the Prost. Now, here were McLaren apparently in terrible trouble at this race. Ferrari in control. That's Villeneuve going off. Replay. And one of the
Heidfeld going off, who got the car, then of course got the car
stuck.
High-sided, couldn't get out.
One of the biggest problems for these cars in these conditions, of course, it's not so much that they lose grip, which of course they do in these conditions, but in torrential rain like this, the cars are so low with sort of 8mm ground clearance at the front that they start to literally aquaplane just like a surfboard. In wet conditions, the mechanics, the engineers want to lift the cars another 10, 12, even 15mm to clear it out of the rainwater. So if the cars are set up for rain, you stand a much better chance. But when you suddenly switch to wet tyres, you haven't got the ability to lift the car. There's a little bit more diameter on a wet. It's a little bit more circumference rubber that will lift it up naturally, but you want to lift it up another 10, 12 mil. You can't do that, of course, if you set it up in dry conditions, and that's the main reason why the car's surfboard aquaplane off the circuit.
And that splitter, if the water is deep enough, can actually cause the car to kind of submarine into the ground, too.
There you see the cars are out, Villeneuve out, Penny out, so a bad day for BAR Honda, Heidfeld out, and Raikkonen out, so a bad day for Sauber as well. Very, very, very disappointing for those 4 cars, 2 teams completely decimated, and the Ferrari team currently running 10th for Barrichello and 11th for Michael Schumacher. Just 5 laps ago they were on the pole.
Here's Trulli's spin from the lead, showing just the incredible conditions, the total lack of control, and there behind him the car that was, oh my gosh,
that's David Coulthard.
That's Coulthard, who managed to get back around onto the track, did not cross the gravel trap.
I couldn't see it.
I mean, everybody's been
The
off,
track temperature is 82 degrees now, and you can see the water around the back part of the circuit was starting to steam off.
Yeah. I doubt if there are more than 4 or 5 cars that have stayed on the circuit throughout this whole episode. No. This is where a Jean Alesi is worth his weight in gold.
Let's have another look at the restart here. 2 Ferraris on the front row. Barrichello does not get off to a good start. Jarno Trulli goes down the outside there, does get off to a good start. Then he moves across the track behind Barrichello. Barrichello moves to block him. Meanwhile, Ralf Schumacher's crept up there on Barrichello, who spins him around.
Schumacher holds that slide that is initiated by having Barrichello hit him, and he holds it long enough that I thought he spun on his own, but no, not at all.
He
It
just
was all
got
done
tagged.
by Barrichello.
But Barrichello was really busy trying to keep Jarno Trulli out. Here you see Trulli on the right of the screen. Now he moves right across from right to left, down the inside. In fact, Barrichello actually touched Schumacher right there, I think, first of all. Then he touched him again in the corner and spun Schumacher around. But of course, Barrichello at that point had nowhere to go. He was right up on the curb, so he had nowhere to go really anyway.
I think there's about 12 cars padding around behind the pace car, so I think we've decimated half the field in the opening laps of this race.
Which then we were expecting high attrition here anyway because of the heat. There you see the line of rain. This is going through turn 3, not a drop of water. Then just in a couple of 300 yards, boom, it's going to start, and there it is, an absolute torrential downpour.
And of course, it's going to make the tire situation just brutal because they're going to need the rains where it is flooded. And then they're going to have these very, very soft compound rain tires blistering like crazy on the part of the very hot track that is dry.
Well, the smart...
3.4 miles around, so it's about divided, wouldn't you say, Steve, half and half, wet and dry right now.
Very wet
Yes.
here.
The smart engineers, probably thinking that it was going to be a localized shower, if that's what the meteorologist has told them, would have put the intermediate tires on. Anybody that's put monsoon tires on thinking that it's going to be a lasting storm, they're going to be in trouble. But the intermediates should be able to get them to the first pit stop okay. Then they can make another...
It looked like intermediates that they were putting on the Ferrari. I must say it was a bit surprising, but we didn't realize at that stage that the rain was in fact only on half the circuit, and it looked like intermediates that we saw being put on the Ferrari. It'll be interesting to see what people have in fact chosen.
Just to review a second, an incredible development with both Ferraris, who were in full control of the race, shooting off the road on the oil from another car.
One after the other.
One after another. Both of them completely out of control, but Barrichello arriving back in the pits first, getting attention first, and having all sorts of problems during his stop, which forced Michael Schumacher to wait for more than a minute before his car could be serviced. That explains the Ferrari predicament at the moment.
Well, are they going to keep this pace car out? Olivier Panis, you can see the flame coming out of the back. We're not sure whether the engine blew or whether a pipe blew or something, because we've just been saying how reliable the Honda engine, the new Honda engine, has been in all the testing they did all through the winter. They did lots of full race tests, both Panis and Villeneuve. So the engine has proven to be very reliable so far, but something obviously went wrong today. Look at that. There's the rain on the back straight, on the last straight. And then when you come around onto the front straight, just get down to turn 1 and it completely goes again. So as the field follows around behind the pace car, we'll take a quick break here. We'll be back with more from Malaysia in just a minute.
Welcome back to a chaotic Malaysian Grand Prix. A heavy rain coming just 2 or 3 laps into the race scrambled the order, and we are waiting now for a restart. We are 9 laps down, with probably the restart coming in a lap. Steve?
Well, the smart move probably from some of the engineers in the pit lane would be thinking, do we come in now for dry tyres, knowing that the rain has passed? If they can keep the car together on this wet part of the circuit, now is the time to pit, probably take advantage of the safety car being out and get some dry tyres on. Don't know if any team's going to do that or not, but it could be a wise move.
It looks awfully wet for that, though, to me, Steve, still. Where it's wet, I mean, it is really wet.
Now, David Coulthard is the first in line behind the safety car. The Ferraris are lurking back about 11 or 12 seconds back. But of course, their bacon was saved, so to speak, by the appearance of the safety car bunching the field up. The Ferraris, obviously heavily favored in the race, you can see where they are. They're 10 and 11 seconds back, respectively, but not in a disadvantaged position, particularly right now, although obviously David Coulthard, if he can make a clean break of it, can get to the first pit stop leading. Probably.
Well, that's it. He's got a clear track, and he's got... Wow, that was Olivier Panis going off, a replay of him going off when the engine or the pipeline blew, caught fire, and it was his oil that initiated the first spin of, or the first off of Michael Schumacher, and immediately followed by Rubens Barrichello. Jarno Trulli, of course, got the nod when he saw them disappearing, and managed to get through there without spinning, and then almost immediately it started to rain, at which point a whole phalanx of people shot off the road, including Villeneuve in the second of the BAR. Both of the salvers went off, and Bertoldi went off in one of the arrows, and Alonso went off, and a lot of people spun around in that incredible rain shower that we had just on a part of the track. The pace, the lights are still on the safety car.
There's some of that superb racetrack architecture. Beautiful view of the stands there.
Now watch the dry line suddenly appear. It's right at the end of the pit lane exit. As they go onto the pit lane exit, just over that, there's a straight line where the rain stops. There. And now it goes to dry.
And back to rain.
Yeah, it looks pretty slick out there. Obviously, like Steve said a moment ago, some of the teams will be thinking, boy, oh boy, should we really take a big risk here and come in and put some dries on? But at this stage, do you want to lose too much track time when the field is all bunched up? That could be a very risky maneuver at this stage, I would
And
thought.
as the safety car stays out lap after lap, you get closer and closer to a regular pit stop window, too. But, I mean, this is when the calculators are humming overtime. Steve, am I right?
Well, the engineers are now thrown into all their calculations. You see that they were up till probably 3 or 4 in the morning thinking, well, what if this happens? What if that happens? Should we pit here? Should we pit then? All thrown in complete turmoil by this rain.
Pace, like the lights are off on the safety car, so we're ready to go. And of course, that can't have been good for these engines. There's extreme heat going this slowly. That a lot of those engines must have got pretty hot.
Pace car off. They'll be taking the restart just in seconds.
So David Coulthard now got a fantastic chance, because some of those other people are going to be absolutely disappearing in spray, none of which he'll have for some significant time yet. Verstappen going down the inside of Jarno Trulli, all thinking about it.
The Ferraris, knowing they have the best cars on the track, but they're going to have to be very careful working their way through the field.
Well, we know that McLaren's been desperately short of downforce on the front of the car. These are just the conditions where they could do with a lot of downforce on the car in the wet. So Coulthard particularly is going to have to be extremely careful turning into these corners.
A lot of understeer on the McLarens, and this is just the conditions that they won't like that at all. Wow, Jos Verstappen hanging right in there with Jarno Trulli.
About to move into second. This is where driver skill and a car that happens to have a felicitous setup for the condition can make an incredible difference. It can take a midfield runner, or in the case of the Arrows, a backfield runner, and make it competitive. I mean, remember, we're running many, many seconds off what dry times would be.
Now, in these sort of wet conditions, you guys talking as drivers, is this where driving skill really comes into its own and the engineering starts to drop off?
You bet.
Well, the engineering, a little bit, yeah. Mika Hakkinen now right on the tail of Jos Verstappen. This shouldn't take very long for Mika Hakkinen to get by him. But, of course, when it comes to those very wet bits, the spray must be just tremendous back there.
Well, it's conditions like this in the past that produced Senna's great drive at Monaco, for example, and Tolman, a car that was a back marker for sure, and he forced it up and almost won the race with a finish second. So yes, you can. And by the way, see the rain still hanging over.
Is that the rain? Is that just been, or is that coming?
I don't know.
Because I tell you, if that's coming, we're in trouble. Verstappen breathing right down the neck of Jarno Trulli there, and he goes by. Boy, oh boy, oh boy.
But Jarno Trulli stays with him. Jos Verstappen now running
This is the full
second.
factory Honda engine, Eddie Jordan monster team being passed by that underpowered Peugeot engine with Jos Verstappen at the wheel. What an incredible letdown.
And the Peugeot holds its own down that half-mile straight, too.
Michael Schumacher now up to 9th, as you can see, but of course, Rubens Barrichello still in front of him.
Barrichello excels in conditions like this. He won his first race, of course, last year at Hockenheim on a wet, dry track situation. I think, Steve, to try to answer your question better, when the track conditions are changing all the time, you can't settle into any rhythm. It depends completely on how fast your reflexes are, how considerable your nerve is. It's very hard to see where you're going, so you have to take a lot of chances, and drivers that thrive in conditions like this can excel through just sheer nerve and desire.
Yeah, I was thinking from an engineering point of view, when we used to set the cars up for wet conditions like this, all you can do is put softer springs on the car, put more wing on, and put the brake bias more to the back of the car, because that's where they're running on a slanted dry line. But really, it was all down to what the driver could do. You know, there was very little the engineers could do in the rain to tweak performance out of the car.
Mika Hakkinen there pulling past. That's Heinz-Harald Frentzen, not Jarno Trulli, that's been running in third spot now. He's in third, and right behind him now is Ralf Schumacher in the first of the Michelin-shod cars, and here come the two Ferraris.
Clear of several of the slower cars they've gotten by.
Can't work out whether that rain's coming or going. Jos Verstappen, look at the distance Jos Verstappen's put between himself and Mika Hakkinen. Frentzen now under attack again. Ralf Schumacher going past Heinz-Harald Frentzen there on that damp 180-degree turn 15 there. So Ralf Schumacher.
Jos Verstappen in his 76th Grand Prix. Of course, he's never won one. He's been on the podium twice.
Michael Schumacher on a bit of a charge, but David Coulthard's got some good breathing space between himself and the rest of the field. He hasn't had to bother with any of that spray. He's been able to find his own way through all the wet spots. There's a very dry spot, which of course is what's going to lead to trouble with these intermediate or wet tires. Still a long way to go yet, 43 laps. Michael Schumacher now up to Jarno Trulli.
David Coulthard taking on some of the sense of a team leader this year. He's talked about it for years, but he really has this year, kind of with his second place 2 weeks ago in Australia, gained some confidence.
Boy, Hakkinen coming under intense pressure here from Ralf Schumacher.
Well, Schumacher's got that high straightaway speed that we talked about, and if he can get that car launched properly down the straightaway, in conditions like this would be a very easy passing maneuver for him to just power by.
Two brothers there, Ralf Schumacher, Michael Schumacher. Barrichello picks off one of the Jordans there.
Schumacher's lap times are now, it's like a second and a half quicker than the rest of the field, apparently, on the timing screen. So, button spinning.
Quick spin.
Jensen Button spins right in the middle of the traffic.
All sorts of intriguing pairings. The drivers.
Oh, Michael Schumacher making up some ground now on Mika Hakkinen. Big time ground. Pulls out and passes him.
Decisive move.
There goes Michael past Mika Hakkinen into third spot.
Michael Schumacher up from 12th to 3rd.
Mika Hakkinen having a thought there about going down. Whoa! Schumacher looked like he went wide there, but gathered it all up.
This is where
Verstappen still only 2 seconds behind David Coulthard. Isn't that absolutely unbelievable? Michael Schumacher now up to third, 6 seconds adrift. Hakkinen also in the 6 seconds. Ralf Schumacher's dropped back to 5th.
And Barrichello holding up his end of the Ferrari effort quite well. He's lost a little bit to Schumacher, but when you consider that this is Schumacher's, the kind of situation in which you would expect him to excel, the fact that Barrichello has lost only 2-3 seconds to him.
Well, Barrichello and Schumacher Ralf Schumacher getting dangerously close together again, having spun him around once today.
Barrichello ripping.
Barrichello's now up to 5th, round Ralf Schumacher. Look how wet it is there. His next victim is going to be Mika Hakkinen in front of him. There's Michael Schumacher going out of the pits. Mika Hakkinen coming up. Rubens Barrichello right on the tail now of Mika Hakkinen.
Hakkinen recently a father, spent much of the winter away from the cars in the world of testing. You wonder now if...
Ooh, is he going to go around the outside? No, but he's going to go by on the inside now, is he? Yes. Now, Mika Hakkinen is an unbelievably clean driver. He always leaves room. I'm not sure, sometimes he doesn't leave a bit too much room. He really does make overtaking easy somehow.
Well, we know that McLaren's, we've said it before, all weekend they've been complaining they're suffering from understeer and they've not got sufficient downforce on the car, but this is really Ferrari coming into their own and McLaren looking absolutely awful.
Well, to back that up, Steve, here are lap times from the last lap. David Coulthard out front, 57.5. Michael catching up, 54.9. Presumably that's 1:57.
Michael Schumacher now about to go past Verstappen, caught right up to him there. Now he's only just 1.9 seconds behind David Coulthard down to that turn. He's going to try. No, he's not. Now, of course, he's going to get him coming out of this turn 2. I would think, on the acceleration as they go around this tight turn 2, and then the road opens up to this 3. He's going to go round the... Is he going to go around the outside?
That's nerve right there.
I don't think I'd do that to old Jos Verstappen, because you get the wheel on that wet grass.
What we're hearing from the pit lane now is that Ferrari are, in fact, the only team out there that are running on intermediate tyres. Everybody else is on full wet tyres, which is giving that big advantage.
They look like intermediates when they put them on, but they were the only tyres we saw close up.
Yes.
Verstappen still holds him off, though. That's pretty good.
Well, a smart move in my eyes would be that Verstappen lets Michael get past and he keeps himself in the race, because what Verstappen doesn't want to do is risk getting into contact with Michael, because you know what Michael's like when he wants to get past somebody, and Verstappen's doing such a good job at the moment. He's looking very good, and with Herbert being back in the team, signed up now as test driver as the Ferrari gets past him.
Now Michael Schumacher, that last lap, was 4 seconds quicker than David Coulthard.
This is exactly what Verstappen needs, a good solid drive to keep Herbert at bay as test driver. It's all very well Herbert being signed up as test driver, and exactly the same thing happened at Benetton, where Verstappen was put out of a drive, I think quite wrongly, by Herbert coming into the team. What Verstappen needed was the confidence of a team around him, and if he could put a good solid drive in here, it would have been great confidence.
He's certainly doing so far a very solid drive.
Here it comes, folks. We're about to see Michael Schumacher retake the lead.
Tucking into the draft there of David Coulthard.
Parallel to David Coulthard.
Can't quite do it.
Last turn, and now they'll square away on this half-mile straightaway, and we'll see Mercedes power in the McLaren and Ferrari power in the Ferrari. And here goes the slipstream, and there goes Michael Schumacher, and they're dead even for the lead of the Malaysian Grand Prix, with Schumacher on the outside, and he's outbraked him. There's a new leader.
Wow, he did it on the outside, but of course if he's got the better tyres, as it's not so wet down there, it'll be interesting to see how he pulls away. And of course, obviously, this is going to lead to a pit stop strategy change on the part of the McLaren. They're probably going to have to do something about it.
And now, how sensible, really, in retrospect, was Ferrari's decision to pull both cars in together and keep them there and put the tyres on. You know, as we all said, you know, it was a long stop and wasn't the right thing to do. But boy, Schumacher's just taken the lead of the race with that decision.
Well, they were lucky
a bit
that
lucky with
the safety car went out at just the right moment. Another Ferrari break, and there are a lot of people that think that Ferrari has more than their share of good luck.
Streaking past Verstappen. But Verstappen really doing a magnificent job, and as Steve so rightly says, if he can just keep his head, I wonder what tyres he's got on. I wonder if he's got the intermediates on, because Mika Hakkinen, he's pulling away from Mika Hakkinen and hanging right on to David Coulthard, who's also about to be dusted up now by Rubens Barrichello, and Verstappen's only just behind the McLaren.
Big day for you, David. You've been touting Verstappen for years. He's 29 years old now, but you liked him 5 years ago.
He's one of those guys that just got all the wrong deals, and as Steve said, he got pushed out for Johnny Herbert when he really shouldn't have done. And I think Verstappen has probably lost that edge that he had. You know, you do when you drive all the wrong cars all the wrong time, or for a long time. But Verstappen certainly got it, mate.
Well,
there goes Rubens Barrichello past David Coulthard for second. So the Ferraris now asserting themselves in their 1 and 2 after qualifying.
Well, what do the aerodynamicists make of those barge boards falling off the car and the car still performing this well? You know, all that extra work and hours they put into the winter and get those calculations sorted out. You can see you just rip the barge boards off. Seems to make no difference to the performance at all.
I'll tell you what, all 6,000 hours in the wind tunnel for McLaren this year, 150 hours for the Minardis. And in spite of all that wind tunnel time, the barge board comes off and the car is still leading the race. So in 6 laps, the Ferraris have gone to the lead. We're going to take a quick break now, but we'll be right back with more of this exciting action from Malaysia. Don't go away.
Welcome back to the Malaysian Grand Prix, which is drying out. The surface is drying out, and the order has been restored in the sense that the Ferraris, have now resumed the lead. They're running 1-2, and the man you see right there, David Coulthard, is back in 3rd place, David.
Yes, it's as you can see, it's still pretty damp on the track. We believe the McLarens have got full wet tyres on. The Ferraris have got intermediates, which obviously plays into their hands around the dry parts of this circuit. And these guys with the full wets will start to run into trouble soon. However, we hear there's a lot of thunder and lightning there, so there's a very severe possibility that it could rain more fairly shortly. Michael's last lap was a 50.9, a 150.9. David Coulthard's a 55.8, 5 seconds a lap quicker. So So Rubens Barrichello's was a 51.4, just half a second off Michael's pace. So the Ferraris at the moment just absolutely running away and hiding. But if they've got the intermediates, it's obviously playing right into their hands on this very, very peculiar track. I mean, it's wet on one half, and when we say wet, I mean we mean really wet. And on the other side, it's bone dry.
Well, one thing about the track is it was designed to promote easy passing, and we've certainly seen a lot of passing in the last few minutes here.
Yes, we have indeed, and it's curious. Coulthard's comments on this yesterday after qualifying, you put out in the team's press release, he says this is not an easy track to pass on. I mean, what on earth is the chap talking about?
Mika Hakkinen is into the pits from P5 here. We see Mika Hakkinen obviously coming in for a tyre change to get probably put full dries on too. How do those tyres look, Steve? Can't see very
well. They are going on to, groove tyres. I nearly said slicks, but they're not slicks any longer. They've gone on to groove tyres.
And did they refuel?
I didn't see the refueling. Sorry, guys, I was looking at the tyres.
And the BMW.
I didn't see either. Ralphie Schumacher. Boy, their day came unglued with Montoya not taking the start and then getting involved early on in a spin, and then Ralph Schumacher getting spun on the first lap. Looking pretty good, holding his brother off for a little bit, but gradually slipping back into the clutches of Mika Hakkinen. Ralph Schumacher was running in 5th when he stopped.
I just had a quick look on a replay monitor that we've got here in the studio, and no, that's right, as you said, David, McLaren did not refuel the car, just tyres and go.
Wow, that's a bit odd, isn't it? 18 laps in.
The new word in Formula One is optimize. Everybody's optimizing everything. You wonder if they optimize their opportunities there.
Alonso, the youngest driver in the race, in for his stop. There you see those intermediate tyres, which he is opting to keep on. Now, of course, we hear that the weather is incredibly poor around the circuit, and it could yet rain again. So it's a tremendous toss-up here to change and put the dry tyres on. If, you know, in another 10 minutes or 15 minutes, the heavens are going to open again. We saw the Ferrari pit is ready for their guys to come in, one of their guys to come in.
Steve, how do you explain Mika Hakkinen's strategy in view of the situation?
Not really sure what the situation is yet. I mean, they must have gone with extremely full tanks when they left at the start of the race, and they want to try and extend that as much as possible before coming to refuel. But why? The other problem is, of course, they may have a problem with the refueling rig that they've discovered. I don't know.
Now, Michael is still 5 seconds a lap quicker than David Coulthard, but who is running in 3rd spot at the moment. But it's obviously until Mika Hakkinen's done a timed lap on his new tyres, we don't know what the real difference is going to be. And obviously the Ferrari pit will be watching Mika Hakkinen with extreme interest, having come in, put the dry tyres back on. They'll have to see what times he's doing, whether he's going to be catching up with Michael Schumacher. Obviously he's now down quite a few seconds, plus of course the pit stop.
And Ferrari mechanics are out in the pit lane, we understand, ready for a stop.
Well, they'll be checking on Mika Hakkinen. David Coulthard we're looking at there, who's running 5 seconds a lap slower on the wet tyres. Look at that, it's 21.5 seconds behind Michael Schumacher, who only passed him about 4 laps ago.
Well, this is a point of tactics, but it seems to me that what Ferrari has to do is cover the move that Hakkinen makes. He's really the threat to them if he steps out of order and does something unusual. Jos
Verstappen still only just about 3 seconds behind David Coulthard.
And a distinct dry line.
Look how dark it is there, unless that's just a camera shot. The road is dark there because it was wet, and of course it suddenly gets dry as they come into this turn 1 and 2 complex.
It's dark.
But it's very dark, so I'm sure they're all watching the sky and got their radio scanners out, listen to weather forecasts, ring up the local airport. We know how dodgy weather forecasting can be.
The local airport about half an hour away, Kuala Lumpur, a major airport.
35. Ten and a half seconds to P2 from Michael Schumacher, and 22 seconds back to P3, 25 seconds back to P3. So he's still pulling away from David Coulthard at a staggering rate. There you see the guys who are out. Both of the BAR Hondas, unfortunately, Villeneuve and Panis, are still very wet on this one side of the track. So Coulthard obviously feels justified in keeping those wet tyres on, but the intermediates proved to be the best choice. Somebody went into the pits there.
No. The Benetton.
Fisichella is in one of the Benettons. Jenson Button's had another spin. That's at least 2 spins Jenson Button's had so far.
And Michael is now putting in some blistering laps, pulling away all the while now from Barrichello. They both, remember, on the same tyres, probably on the same fuel strategy, but Michael's really started it. Now you can see the Benetton mechanics there cranking a bit more downforce on the car, presumably to try and get that car to stick to the circuit.
It's going to be interesting to see what... See, it's still pretty wet out there in places.
It's curious. I haven't seen such a difference on track like this until Spa. You know, when you just get one end of Spa completely wet and the pitch completely dry. We've got a definite dry line going around the circuit. The racing line is dry, and then you get the other part, it's standing water again.
It's really weird because this is almost a square track, unlike Spa, which is kind of long and thin, you know, so you can understand it getting wetter one. Rubens Barrichello's in from P2. He was 12 seconds behind his team leader, Michael Schumacher.
Dry tyres and cleaning out the ducts.
Yeah.
There's not going to be an awful lot of stuff coming out of those ducts this time, I don't think.
But that was one of the reasons that first stop of his was so long, because they spent a lot of time cleaning out the ducts after he and Schumacher had both been through that first gravel track. So that was one of the reasons why his first stop was so long. A lot of cleaning out went on.
Every Formula One season has a race like this, where everything just goes haywire.
Sure has gone haywire. We hear that Heinz-Harald Frentzen is in the pits in the Jordan Honda. He was running in 5th spot. Jenson Button is in 12th, having had a couple of spins. And here comes Michael Schumacher. Is this Verstappen coming in? Heinz-Harald Frentzen leaving the pits, having also put dry tyres on. 8.2 second stop, not too bad. Michael Schumacher.
Michael Schumacher, David, is in a world of his own.
Boy, right now, he certainly is in a world of his own, isn't he? He said, he commented after the Australian Grand Prix that he thought he had peaked as a driver. And some people I know had comments about why he would say that. I guess the fact is he's 31, 32 years old, and he realizes that he really has peaked. He isn't going to be able to get much better. He said, maybe I can make the car go a bit quicker. But whether he's peaked or not, I think that generally speaking, that'd be, whether he's peaked or not, it's still bad news for the other drivers, because he's definitely head and shoulders above them. Jarno Trulli, he's currently running in 6th spot, right behind his, well, he must be in front of Frentzen now, who's just stopped for tyres.
Well, I think the rest of the pits are desperately hoping that Michael Schumacher's not going to improve anymore. You know, they've got enough trouble with him as he is. I don't want any more performance coming out.
That's the last thing is him to say, so I think I'm getting better every day. I'm sure that next year I'll be a lot better.
Another 2 seconds in me yet, boys.
Yeah. Would be good news, wouldn't it?
Schumacher
Trulli is up to 5th now.
Schumacher, of course, gunning for his 46th win. Prost has the all-time record with 51. He'd be only 5 wins back, which would be quite doable within this season.
Absolutely. The one thing he won't get to is Senna's record of poles. He is now number 2 on the all-time list with 34. Ayrton Senna, 65 poles. Jos Verstappen now putting the dry tyres on. Obviously, as the track dries out, old Jos Verstappen will gradually slip back. He won't be able to maintain that sort of performance, but obviously he has tremendous skill in the wet. The chassis must be just right for the wet, a little bit softer perhaps than some of the faster cars in the dry, but whatever it is, Jos Verstappen in the wet put on a magnificent display, and it's going to be a bit of a shame to see him almost certainly slip back through the field.
If you ever wonder why in the pit stop you see the mechanics push the car out of the pit stop, and you think, you know, wouldn't 800 horsepower be just about sufficient to get the car moving on its own? The answer, of course, is to just aid that clutch a little bit.
Yeah, right, exactly. The clutch after those dynamic starts needs all the help it can get too. So 22 laps in, 53 to go. It's now a 55 lap race after that debacle on the grid with Fisichella. It would have been a 56 lap rate. Now we're down to 55. 22 laps in. Bertie in the Jaguar, holding the Jaguar name up there in 9th. There you see the cars that are out.
And they all went out during that 2 or 3 lap period there, where the rain hit so suddenly.
John Lacey, who was looking very good when it was very wet, has now slipped back a bit.
Well, Ralf Schumacher
Whoa,
right
whoa, whoa,
behind
whoa, that put a
Frentzen.
nasty big flat spot on that new tyre.
Ralf Schumacher, who had the highest straightaway speed in practice and qualifying. We'll see now if he can put that to good use.
This, of course, is the sort of battle that is what it's all about. Factory Honda engine in the Jordan, factory BMW engine in the Williams chassis there. Tremendous amount at stake. These companies spending upwards of 50 million a year on engine production and development to do Formula One, as Jarno truly comes in from 5th spot.
Well, it's
In fact,
certainly
he got up to 4th spot before he came in. Good stop.
Whoa,
Very good
spectacular.
stop.
And there's the
Ooh,
unbelievable.
banging into each other down the straight.
BMW power, in fact, did
Whoa.
bring
Wheels going to get tangled up here
oh,
now.
fantastic.
Oh,
great racing.
the line changing for the better for the one driver or after as they go through that series of S's. Two Germans here, very proud guys. Ralf Schumacher holding good grief.
Wow,
There it is.
Frentzen
That's as
had to
good a
back off.
sequence as you can get. S-bends on a wide track, great stuff. But what
Both
set
of
it
them
up,
giving racing room too.
well, what set it up was the superior power of that BMW, because when they started down the straight, Schumacher was behind, and when they got to the end, he was
right with him.
Right with him.
Schumacher giving a distinct wobble as they came out of that S there. Of course, Schumacher now on the Michelins. There you see Luciano Berti, in the Jaguar.
Elegantly sliding it out.
He came in 9th position. Now, of course, when we have traction control, we're not going to see all that stuff when they leave the pits, are we?
A little bit more downforce going on the front of bumper, cleaning out those ducts.
You see much less sliding.
No, you won't see an awful lot. What you will see when you see the black tyre marks as they put the power down coming out of the pitch, you'll see distinct breaks where the gear change happens.
Yeah.
So you'll see a sort of, 3 meters of tyre rubber, then there'll be a break, 3 meters of tyre rubber for the next gear change.
All that in just 2 races. And they go to full traction control.
Michael Schumacher giving a driving demonstration to everybody here.
Kind of
Still
looking
on those
lonely
first-
out there, doesn't it?
Still on the first set of tyres.
Whoa! It's
Well,
still very wet, isn't
It's
it? Right
that
at
damp spot at the end of that straight as we come into the pit straight here. Oh, there in front of him is Trulli, who's just behind Heinz-Harald Frentzen. 30 laps left. So Michael Schumacher must be about due for a one stop to see him through the end of this race. Just about due moment in a couple of 3 laps. And of course, no doubt all of them still watching the sky very anxiously. 38.9 seconds back to David Coulthard, who I don't believe has stopped yet.
The running order is exactly the same right now as the way it finished in Australia 2 weeks ago. And the interesting thing is that Coulthard versus Hakkinen, it's a complete reversal of what we've been looking at in the last few years.
There you see David Coulthard coming in from 2nd spot, nearly 40 seconds behind the leader on the way in. Pretty good stop there, not as good as that stop we just saw a moment ago from Frentzen. 8.8 seconds is still a good stop. Barrichello's gone by into 2nd.
Ferrari's
Now
1-2.
David Coulthard on his dry tyres. It'll be interesting to see if he can pick up that pace now, because he was getting dropped at the rate of nearly 5 seconds a lap.
McLaren's pit drill is so perfect in a way that it just makes it look so matter-of-fact the way these guys just work on the car 8 seconds and the thing's back on the track again.
No, it's unbelievable, really.
However, the Jordan team did a beautiful job with their pit work as well.
Yes, they did.
So there you see Jos Verstappen is running in 4th, Mika Hakkinen right behind him in 5th. Mika Hakkinen, both of these guys have stopped. They've both got new tyres on, but it can surely only be a matter of time before Hakkinen whistles around Jos Verstappen, but Jos Verstappen having an absolute afternoon that he'll never forget. Fisichella up to 9th now after that disastrous start. Button in 15th. And last. Now we hear it's starting to rain again, so maybe Michael Schumacher, by hanging on there to the bitter end, has achieved yet another
huge
coup, because he's about ready for a stop, and he might just come in and put some new intermediates on.
And it would put Jos Verstappen back in business too.
Of course, he's got a 40-second lead on the field.
Look at that sky. Dramatic shots.
I tell you, just these laps of seeing Jos fighting with McLaren is beautiful.
Unbelievable, isn't it?
Absolutely beautiful.
Can you believe what Mika Hakkinen thinking? I do not believe this. What is happening? I cannot believe this. Is that the arrows in front of me? It is. Oh, whoa.
Ooh.
It nearly wasn't them.
There he goes, I'm afraid.
He's not going to give up. He's not going to give up.
He stays ahead. Terrific stuff.
That's my boy. I always said he was good.
Verstappen.
Boy, oh boy. Mika Hakkinen now absolutely scratched his head. I can't believe this. Right in front of him, is that Fisichella there?
One of the Benettons. They're coming up the lap. This will be fascinating.
Now these two guys in front, Button is fighting with Mazzacani, and I don't suspect they're watching too close in their mirrors. They may not see these two approaching. And if they get a blue flag, meaning there's someone trying to overtake, they'll think it's for them, for their little race.
This is great stuff, Jos. All we have to do is just keep it together.
This is where Mika Hakkinen could really just...
And Jos makes a move on the Benetton.
Yeah.
Good job there.
And I think Mazzacani knows he's there too. Yep. So Verstappen is through cleanly, and so is Hakkinen. Whoa!
Boy, oh boy, Mazzacani didn't give Hakkinen enough room, or Hakkinen didn't think he'd given him enough room, and Hakkinen nearly got run into by that Benetton, who thought that Hakkinen was going to be out of the way.
I think Hakkinen hit a part of the track where he didn't have as much traction as he needed to surge upon him.
It's one of those things where you get one of those telescoping effects on the brakes. The guy in front brakes, and the fast one at the back doesn't realize they're all holding up so quick.
So Mika Hakkinen has had a chance to get by Verstappen, and that was a lap ago, and now he's further back than he was.
Lost out a lot of time there. So as we watch Verstappen and Hakkinen fighting it out for 4th spot in the Malaysia Grand Prix, we'll take another break. There you see the results, and we'll be back in just a few minutes with more. Don't go away.
Welcome back to Speed Vision's coverage of the Malaysian Grand Prix. Ralf Schumacher has just moved into 5th place. He is now right behind Jos Verstappen. Schumacher moved by Mika Hakkinen, who had been menacing Verstappen and who is now dropping back. And here's how it happened, David.
Well, I should think what happened, quite honestly, was that Mika Hakkinen was concentrating so hard on Jos Verstappen that he didn't really realize that Michael Schumacher had crept up on them both. And here you see Ralf Schumacher going down him on the inside of that last corner before the pit straight. And Ralf Schumacher's car looking definitely a bit twitchy there,
yes,
under braking. And now Ralf Schumacher is setting off in hot pursuit of Jos Verstappen and pulling away a little bit from Mika Hakkinen, who must still be scratching his head about the whole thing.
And let me again, as you see the Ferrari team getting ready for the world champion. But again, the BMW power has been a decisive factor in this event.
Now, obviously, you would think that with the BMW power that the Williams should absolutely just whistle right by Verstappen when they get to the next straight.
Yeah, I mean, BMW power's all well and good and one thing, but what about Asia Tech power in the back of the arrows?
Yeah, which is supposed to be the absolute worst on the grid, but not looking too bad right at the moment.
Well, they're presumably running a very low downforce package, and look at that.
And yet, if they're running a low downforce package, how did it go so well when it was wet?
Here it comes. Now watch for this. Watch for the BMW lining up Verstappen. Verstappen checking the mirrors.
Michael Schumacher over here is in the pits. And This will be his one and only stop, unless, of course, it should rain again. Very well judged, because his teammate, who he's a minute ahead of now, 1 minute 7 seconds ahead of Barrichello, who has stopped, but Barrichello stopped on lap 19, so he's going to have to stop again.
This comes exactly halfway at half distance. Michael Schumacher possibly en route to his 6th consecutive race win.
Ralf Schumacher still has to get around Jos Verstappen, and Mika Hakkinen is still behind them both.
The track, 3.4 miles long. What is that? A minority, apparently, we are hearing, has shed its right rear. They're waving a yellow, of course, there.
Yeah, now what are they going to do about that? Huh?
What are they going to do about that?
Yeah, someone going to run out and get it, or are they going to bring the safety car out, or just leave it there and hope everybody sees it enough times to know it's there?
Well, of course, in the past, a marshal would just run out and grab a thing, but because of the tragedies in Melbourne, of course, the organisers are going to be very wary of sending people out onto the track. The last thing they want is
Darso
someone to be
Marquez,
hit.
whose tyre we believe it was. Wow. Luciano Berti there in the Jaguar, having a very distinctive look down the inside of Davy Coulthard. Of course, Coulthard on Bridgestone tyres, Berti in the Jaguar on Michelin. He's in 11th spot at the moment, 1 lap down.
Well, here is Verstappen still holding off Schumacher.
Ralph locking up a bit there. Ralph's car definitely looks twitchy to me. He's doing a pretty stout job, because it looks very twitchy. It looks twitchy on acceleration, and it definitely looks twitchy on braking. So he's doing a sterling job, and they're all being caught up now by, I think that's Heinz-Harald Frentzen in the Jordan.
It seems amazing. Yes, it is. And doesn't it seem amazing, David, to you to see a McLaren so mired in with those cars? I mean, it's incredible. Last year, McLaren would have dusted off this group and been long gone down the racetrack.
God, in a heartbeat. In a New York minute, as they say.
We know McLaren is suffering from understeer, but there are other factors too. They had to abandon the beryllium heads and the engines, which added weight up high.
Well, they've obviously made some sort of major tactical error, which I can't imagine for one moment with McLaren they're going to be down for long. They're down, but they certainly aren't out. That's Darso Marquez. His right rear tyre, you can see there, has gone flat and is about to come off the rim, which it does right there on the pit straight. And we saw him in the pits 1 lap later getting a new wheel. But this race here is fascinating. It's 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th. That's Heinz-Harald Frentzen has now joined the fray in his Jordan. Here he goes. I tell you, we've seen this wheel-to-wheel stuff from Verstappen before. He got aced out that time, and Mika Hakkinen is going to pounce as well.
A nice clean move.
Yeah, he lost momentum there, and Mika Hakkinen.
Look at the drafting.
Boy, I tell you what, that BMW engine is supposed to be so fast down the straight, and Verstappen's thinking of coming back.
Well, I think he was able to work the draft. Beautiful moves.
So Mika
Great
Hakkinen,
racing.
and look at Frentzen now up with Mika Hakkinen. So Mika Hakkinen is desperately concentrating on trying to get past Jos Verstappen, and now he's concentrating on keeping Heinz-Harald Frentzen back. So Ralf Schumacher, now he's got 3 of him. Is he going to be able to pull away at any substantial rate? Interesting there, the BMW engine obviously going very well. The Williams chassis looking pretty good this year. And Michelin tyres, quite honestly, for their second race, is quite extraordinary. Heinz-Harald Frentzen suddenly not in contact with Mika Hakkinen anymore. He must have had a moment in one of those corners back there.
Steve, do you think that the loss of Olivier Panis as the tester for McLaren could be a factor for them as well?
I don't think so. I mean, Panis is a very good test driver. I think the fact is they've just not been able to test at the moment. That's the problem. These are all what are known in the pit lane as flyaway races. Melbourne, Malaysia, and over to Brazil. And they've just not been able to put any tested miles on. Alexander Wurz signed up as test driver, of course, now ex-Benetton driver and test driver for McLaren. He is very good and very methodical. And I think once they actually manage to get some lap times in, I don't think they'll suffer in the testing department. this is caused, I think, just by the fact that they've not got lap time, they've not got track time on the testing in.
Well, they haven't had, but of course the same thing could apply. I mean, they had the whole winter, like everybody else did, to do some testing. They left their car late. The announcement of it, they left it deliberately late to try and steal a march, to make sure that everybody didn't know what they were doing when they brought the car up. Look at that, Verstappen is absolutely quicker off that hairpin than the McLaren. I mean, you just don't see it. They're down, but as I said, they obviously aren't out, and there's no doubt about it with Ron Dennis and Norbert Haug and Mercedes. I mean, they're going to be a massive amount of money and time spent on this car, and they will no doubt come back. But of course, if the race finishes like it is right now, you know, going into round 3, they're going to be, you know, multiple points behind the 2 Ferraris, both in the Constructors and the Drivers' Championship, which is very difficult to get back, especially if the Williams suddenly becomes really competitive during the season, which it certainly looks as if it's going to do. If the Jordans pick up a bit of pace, you know, it's going to be very difficult for them to make up significant ground on the leader.
So it's a fantastic thing what's happening here. It's a real David and Goliath thing, you know, the setup at Tom Walkinshaw's TWR factory in Oxfordshire compared to what McLaren have got down in Woking.
It's not in the same league.
It's not in the same league, and it's exactly the same as what was happening with Benetton Renault and Minardi we saw in the last race. So it's absolutely wonderful to see it. Now, there was talk about possibly there'll be rule changes to try and slow the cars down. The FIA and Max Mosley are looking at the last thing this sport wants at the moment is any rule changes. This is wonderful stuff.
Yeah. And now Heinz-Harald Frentzen had got right up with Hakkinen and then slipped back. He obviously had a bit of a bobble on one of those corners. Now he's come back to join this fray. This is 4th, 5th and 6th. So 5th, 6th and 7th rather. Because Ralf Schumacher now is in a solid 4th spot, having got around both Hakkinen and Verstappen. Fisichella has stopped. Boy, that Benetton team is just having a gruesome year with the new Renault engine, which again, I'm sure that in time it'll be pretty strong. But as we see Fisichella getting out of his car, tremendous battle going on here. Don't go away. We'll be right back after these messages.
Welcome back to Speed Vision's coverage of the Malaysian Grand Prix. We're looking at the battle for 4th place, where Jos Verstappen in the orange arrows there is managing to hold off Mika Hakkinen, and a heavily driven I'm sorry, David, I just got distracted there for a second. Jos Verstappen.
Was that woman that just walked in with scantily clad that put you off?
Thank you.
She's walking around here at 3 o'clock in the morning. I mean, I don't know what she thinks she's doing, but hi, we'll be back in a minute.
It's
Jos
a true
Verstappen.
David and Goliath act.
Oh, it's incredible, true David and Goliath. And of course, he's holding off Mika Hakkinen, and Heinz-Harald Frentzen is sniffing around there as well, trying to see an opening. Meanwhile, Ralf Schumacher, who was joined this battle, a very short order dispatch with Mika Hakkinen. Took him a bit longer to get past Verstappen, but having got past Verstappen, he is now pulled out. And Ralf Schumacher on the Michelin tire shod Williams BMW engine car is now lying a very solid 4th spot, albeit a minute and 3 seconds behind his brother Michael, who is leading this race with 20 laps to go, 20 and a half laps to go. This is a tremendous battle. I mean, Verstappen really 2 or 3 times they've got alongside him, and he's absolutely duked him out, gone wheel to wheel around this corner here 2 or 3 times. They've been through the whole S-curves a couple of times, absolutely side by side. He just is showing no quarter at all and driving absolutely brilliantly.
And cleanly.
Yeah. And Mika Hakkinen, too, is an exceptionally clean racer. It's great to see.
So is Heinz-Harald Frentzen, for that matter. So 3 very, very fine racers there.
But they obviously just can't quite come to grips. Is that Bertie in front of them in the Jag there with the... They're about to put a lap on Bertie, who is currently running in 10th spot.
Ralph is currently running 2 seconds a lap quicker than Coulthard. 8 seconds gap between those two.
You see the cars that are out, they all went out at almost exactly the same moment. Rubens Barrichello.
Barrichello is currently running 2nd, about 24 seconds behind his team leader, but I think that Barrichello is going to have to stop again, because he stopped on lap 19, and Schumacher didn't stop until lap 30-ish. You know, I don't think Barrichello can make it to the end. Back to that terrific race for 5th, 6th and 7th. There's poor old Fisichella. Not having a good race today. Got it all wrong trying to get the thing lined up. So no doubt he's going to get a lot of flack from Flavio Briatore, who gave him some severe flack last year at the US Grand Prix when Wirtz was quicker than him in qualifying. And Bertie now letting this tremendous battling trio through.
Excellent.
So as these three battle it out for 5th spot there, Verstappen still managing to hold Mika Hakkinen at bay very, very successfully. So while they duke it out, we'll go away for another quick break and we'll come back with more action from Malaysia, because there's lots to come yet, so stay with us.
Welcome back. That is David Coulthard as the Williams team is getting ready for a pit stop. This is the battle for 5th as Verstappen continues to hold off Mika Hakkinen and Heinz-Harald Frentzen. And there is a battle for 3rd. And the action is absolutely thick and heavy at the front end of this race, which has been full of surprises. And there's Hakkinen, who slipped past Verstappen.
And Verstappen nearly came back there. Verstappen is not going to give up. They're coming down to this final corner, and Verstappen's got the line. He's on the inside, and Hakkinen's thinking, I don't believe it. And he's going to get it back. Whoa! He pushed him out now.
And here comes Frentzen.
Here comes Frentzen. He's going to get them both.
Maybe not.
Boy, the might of Honda. This is the all singing and dancing big-time Honda engine, and it can't hold that little Peugeot down the straight.
And boy, did Mika Hakkinen get faked out in that scenario.
Didn't he ever?
Terrible. That was Ralf Schumacher in
and out from
4th.
From 4th. Now, has he got in front of these guys? Is he now behind these guys after that pit stop?
All right, you've seen the setup. We're now going to just listen and watch with no commentary for a couple of minutes as this race rages on. It's fantastic. Just listen.
Schumacher, in fact, did come out behind this battle, which must be just driving Mika Hakkinen absolutely crazy. Complaining again about Peugeot engines being. Look at this.
Whoa.
He got him on the inside there. He made a big bobble. Mika Hakkinen got out of the gas to give him a bit of room and let Heinz-Harald Frentzen get through. So Mika Hakkinen has now lost yet another place. But I just find it extraordinary that Peugeot is staying in front of the Asia Tech, to give it its correct name. Staying in front.
Truly is. This is 8th place, out of the points. But you get the feeling this race is fraught and that anybody in the top 10 could wind up scoring points.
Well, it's quite clear that this Asia Tech engine in the Orange Arrows has in fact got plenty of power. We keep hearing that it has no power. Quite clearly it has got power. The chassis can't be that bad. If it's running no downforce, which is why it's so quick in the straight line, I don't see how he could have done so well in the rain at the beginning of the race. So, you know, people who are scoffing at the engine or scoffing at the lack of downforce, you can't have it both ways. It's either got plenty of downforce and lots of horsepower, or it hasn't got much downforce and you've got an absolute miracle man at the wheel.
Well, Walkinshaw, Tom Walkinshaw, the owner-director of the Arrows team, is very much a racer in the same vein of Frank Williams.
Harkonnen in from that
fruitless pursuit.
And I think the work that Walkinshaw and his team have done with that has made a big difference to that Asia Tech engine, the harnessing as much power as possible.
Big brake ducts then they put on for Australia, obviously left onto here.
Well, there goes hacking it out, but I mean, I can't understand what McLaren's strategy was earlier on. You know, it seems a complete mystery to me, an enigma what they thought they were doing.
Well, they have 100 new employees.
You mean by not refueling when they put the wet tires on?
Yeah, sorry, absolutely,
That was the weirdest thing, wasn't it? I mean, I couldn't understand that. I couldn't understand that for 1 minute. And of course, it turns out they made a mistake by putting the full wets on instead of the intermediates, which the Ferrari guys did, and managed to pull out a significant amount of time.
Here's Rubens Barrichello.
Rubens Barrichello, who was lying second, he comes in for, you know, unfortunately, their strategy too. I'm not quite sure why he stopped as early as he did on lap 19, because he knew he would have to stop again. And I don't think that Michael Schumacher will have to stop again. Tear-off strip coming up. It's fooled us all in Australia when we thought Michael Schumacher was doing something with a tear-off strip or pointing to the airbox and all that, and it turned out that the radio connection was, he could hear Ross Brawn, but Ross Brawn couldn't hear him. And Ross Brawn was just asking him if he could hear him, and he signaled he could. After that pit stop, Rubens Barrichello still holds on to second place, albeit now back to about a minute behind Michael Schumacher. Jos Verstappen still holds on to that fourth spot.
This must be Jos's best race of a career.
Yeah, absolutely got to be.
It's the kind of race that
He made the podium a couple of times in '94, didn't he? Absolutely made a career. This was, I tell you.
I think it's a fabulous thing for him, as we've said on before, you know, to demonstrate now that he's got the ability to drive under pressure against the might of Mika Häkkinen's driving ability and the might of McLaren Mercedes as a team. To keep those two at bay is a wonderful thing. There'll be no questioning Jos's ability now as a driver, or in fact that the Arrows as a car.
Absolutely. I mean, they quite clearly have got plenty of power in that Asia Tech engine. Well, as we watch Mika Häkkinen here trying to pull back up David Coulthard, we'll take a break and we'll be right back.
Welcome back. Jos Verstappen, very much the man of this race, appears to be about to pit. We may see him going to pit lane right here. His crew is ready for him. And Steve Matchett, call his stop for us, if you will.
Well, the pressure is now on Arrows. They've never really been in this position before, so what they need to do is relax, calm. They've rehearsed it 1,000 times. What they need to do is just take the time. There's plenty of time. There's no need to rush. That's when mistakes will happen. Jos getting rid of his tear off as he comes into the pit. Nice and gentle. Look, they don't seem to be rushing. It's exactly what they need to do. Nice and steady. Now, you're not going to get a better stop than that, boys, I don't think. You couldn't ask for a better stop than that in those conditions.
Good stuff.
That is outstanding. Well, we take now a look at the Bridgestone race reset, and this is the other man of the race, really. The story, as we watch Rubens Barrichello, the story is really Michael Schumacher, who led at the start, went off in the rain, came back after a long pit stop to fight his way up from 12th place and back into the lead, and he has dominated the race since that time. It's all Ferrari at this point, but there's more racing to go, 11 laps to go, and there's a hint of rain in the air. And David Hobbs, there's something about this race that just makes you know that there's going to be something between now and the end that's going to reshuffle the way the cars are standing. I just have a feeling in my bones.
And of course it could be weather again. Mika Hakkinen has just set the fastest lap of the race after that last stop, so he's got quite a bit of fuel on board. And maybe, Steve, the car handles better with fuel on board, because, I mean, he's only just stopped. Obviously, he's got new tyres, but still, it's not likely to set the fastest lap when it's absolutely full of fuel.
No.
Well, not full of fuel, but it's enough to get him to the end, which is quite a bit of fuel.
Well, the cars are built in such a way now. I mean, the legal limit 600 kilos with a driver, but without fuel. But the teams have been able to produce the cars now at about 500, 550 or something like that. They're running like 60 kilos of ballast on the car, moving that ballast around up and down the chassis to try and get the thing to handle better. And it could be that just the fuel addition of the weight is actually making the thing react better.
And as we watch Mika Hakkinen here going into turn 1, this 1 and 2 complex. Quite tricky here, straight from 1 to 2 to 3, which is the corner unwinds here, so they're pretty well flat out all the way through. Behind him is the Jag of Bertie, another lap down. So Ralf Schumacher now is 10 seconds in front of Mika Hakkinen in the Williams. Hakkinen now in the hot pursuit with approximately 10 laps to go. That fastest lap of Hakkinen's nearly 4 seconds quicker than the fastest lap previously set by Michael Schumacher. So as we watch Michael Schumacher with just 10 laps to go in this race, leading comfortably Rubens Barrichello. We'll take another break and we'll be right back.
Welcome back. We are looking at David Coulthard, currently running in 3rd place. And as you see, 9 laps remaining. The leader, Michael Schumacher, in a position to set a new record, which would be 6 consecutive wins from pole position. That record hanging out there, just 9 laps from being accomplished if he can keep it on the road. He's well ahead of his teammate Barrichello, and they in turn are well ahead of Coulthard.
And he would also be the first person to win 6 races in a row since Alberto Ascari in the 1952-53 seasons.
Which was Formula 2 racing, and Fangio was out of it then, and I think it was a little easier to run him up at that point than it is now.
Yeah, I mean, you had Ascari, Fangio, Gonzalez, and that was sort of about it, really. I mean, you didn't have fields like you've got today.
Fangio was recovering in those times from that broken neck at Monza.
So, an incredible record awaits Michael Schumacher in just over 8 laps. Quite extraordinary, and of course he'd be the first man to have won 6 races from 6 poles.
Now the man most rapidly on the move at the moment is Mika Hakkinen, whose tire change seems to have enlivened him, but he has a ways to go to get into any serious points.
Well, he's got 1 at the moment. He's lying in 6th spot. He's right behind Ralf Schumacher, who's behind Frentzen, poor old Verstappen. Of course, that last stop basically drilled him, and he has dropped back to 7th with very little chance of catching any of these guys up, I would say. But he certainly put on a fantastic display while he was out there.
That's what he needed, certainly as far as the industry is concerned. All right, it's not going to pick up any prizes on this race, I don't think. It's going to take some bizarre happenings in the last few laps, but as far as the industry is concerned, he's made a big impression on everything today.
And of course, maybe, you know, one of the reasons that Mika Hakkinen was not going absolutely desperate to get by him, although he made some pretty stout efforts, was the fact that he knew that Verstappen was going to have to stop again. But we still can't quite figure out the McLaren strategy with the way they stopped that first time and didn't put fuel in.
My best guess is they had a problem with a refueling rig. We'll look into that and see what we can come up with later. But what they've got basically is 2 tanks. They've got a main charging tank and delivery tank where they put the fuel. The race fuel can then be altered from stop to stop by changing one tank to another. If they've got a problem with changing that tank over, putting the fuel into one, the decision is probably hold off, send the car out, and we'll sort that out later.
Well, they certainly wouldn't want to wait there and try and fix it.
Oh, no.
The same 3 men are headed for the podium right now as went to it in Australia 2 weeks ago. The difference being that Barrichello was 3rd there and he's right now running 2nd. But in both events, it's been David Coulthard who's upheld the honor of the McLaren team not the more traditional team leader, Mika Hakkinen.
Well, there's no doubt about it that the three drivers at the moment are heading the table as headed in Australia. I must say that I thought that the Jordans would probably do a bit better here. Jarno Trulli was very quick here on Friday afternoon and Saturday morning. Looked very strong. Heinz-Harald Frentzen looked strong. And although Frenssen's looking good for a fourth spot here, Jarno Trulli has now dropped back to 8th. And unless he can get around Jos Verstappen. But they seem to be having a problem getting around Oliver Verstappen this afternoon as Michael Schumacher serenely goes on his way with, what, just 7 laps left now before that record awaits him. He said beforehand, I don't care about records that are awaiting me. I'll worry about them when I'm a grandfather and I have grandchildren. I'll tell them about the records I got. But right now, I really just go for one race at a time. I want to win the race. I want to win the championship. And I'll take the records as they come. But nevertheless, he certainly is on a roll now. And if he should win this race, that will be 6 in a row for the first time for 50 years. And it will then only put him just a very few races behind Alain Prost for the total number of victories in Grand Prix racing, which he could easily achieve this year if his form stays the same.
Hakkinen on a tear, setting a new lap record. I mean, a new fastest lap.
That unique sound of that Mercedes Ilmor engine, that tremendous scream with their special exhaust system underneath the car. But he is struggling at the moment to catch up with Ralf Schumacher, who currently is lying one place in front of him, and of course 1 point in front of him. This would be Mika Hakkinen's first point of the year if he comes 6th. There you see the team. some relaxing more than others.
There is the thought,
obviously not expecting a pit stop.
There's the thought that when the series returns to Europe in a couple of races, Brazil is in 2 weeks and then San Marino 2 weeks after that, that at that point McLaren will come alive, that the traction control will be legalized. They have a really demon setup for that, supposedly, and that they will be able to correct the problems which have given them so much understeer. And of course there'll still be 14 races left to run. Obviously we're all looking forward to the United States Grand Prix this year, which is on the last weekend of September, and which is essentially where Mika Hakkinen kind of lost the championship last year. And there's lots of races left, but you hate to go into the European season languishing by maybe as much as his case. At the moment he'd be 19 points behind Michael Schumacher. I mean, that's a long way down. Well, here's the battle. Ralf Schumacher in 5th, Mika Hakkinen catching him in 6th.
Very quickly.
At stake, 2 points for 5th, 1 point for 6th.
Hakkinen's 2 seconds a lap quicker now.
Obviously, the tire change, Steve, just did wonders to bring Mika Hakkinen's car alive.
It could well be that he had a problem with that set of tyres that were before, completely off the pace.
He must have done, which is probably why he had such a struggle with the stopping.
And the car seems to have been completely transformed since that pit stop.
Absolutely picked up a huge amount of time.
There's only so much you can do in a pit stop to make it go quicker.
Look at that, through that last corner. I mean, absolutely incredible speed compared to Schumacher. Knocked a second off in that last lap.
Whoa. Schumacher braking very, very late. You saw the brake dust.
Now Michael Schumacher, Ralf Schumacher trying to hold off Mika Hakkinen. Mika Hakkinen going to slip into his slipstream, although the power of the BMW engine keeping him well in front as they go down to this turn 1 complex. But this, I suspect, you'll see that Mika Hakkinen make up a ton of ground through turns 1 and 2 and 3. Hopefully he'll try and nail him off turn 3 is what he's probably thinking.
With these combination curves, David, it's possible to take a little different line here, a little different line there, and get the man set up, tee him up.
That's the whole idea. He's trying to do that, but Ralf Schumacher managed to hold him off through that complex.
A great cloud of brake dust came out of the right front on the Williams car now. Obviously, Ralph's got this thing really on the ragged edge, trying to keep the McLaren at bay in the closing laps.
Well, of course, it'll be great for him to get those extra 2 points.
You fight for every point you can get.
Not having any points season to date, nor has his teammate Montoya. So he would dearly love the 2 points that go with 5th spot. But Mika Hakkinen now going to give him a real tough run for his money.
Look at that.
Wow.
Whoa. Talk about superiority right now. And by the way, not a trace of understeer
No, he seems to.
from the McLaren.
The understeer seems to be significantly improved.
Well, the
Now
full
again,
fuel-
this is that last the big straight behind the grandstand, looking for water there.
This is where the BMW power ought to
Boy,
be
oh
able
boy,
to
that-
hold off the McLaren.
This Williams car is not going to last much longer.
Whoa!
Whoa!
Okay, now
Ralph Schumacher there lost a
Vulnerable,
little bit
right,
of time
yeah.
there, so Harkonnen slips right behind him there, but the BMW power certainly is holding him in front as they come down to that turn 1 complex. Huge clouds of brake dust. You don't think he's getting to a critical point here, do you, Steve?
I think
where
they're
the
very
front
much-
disc may explode.
Yes, I do. Now remember that they're restricted to 28mm thickness discs, but those discs have got like 10 or 11mm diameter holes drilled down the center of them in the carbon for ventilation. So in fact, usable thickness is down to like sort of 4 or 5mm each side before disc explosion occurs. You know, these closing laps, this car is going to be very, very lucky to get to the end of the race without a amount of
Well, I
brake
hope
that's
he
being
doesn't have one
produced.
of those disc explosions. Happened to Heinz-Harald Frentzen here in the Williams in the Melbourne
in Melbourne a couple of years
a couple of
ago,
years ago,
lost in the
97.
race.
Lost him the race, and
3 laps remaining, though, David. This is for real. I mean, you can hold a guy off who is much superior for 3 laps if you can really gut it out. And of course, the presence of a slower car up ahead could very well be a factor too.
I think that's probably John Lacey in front of
I
him.
think it is Alesi running in 9th place. Alesi finished 9th in Australia. His best finish, believe it or not, in more than a year. 9th place was his best finish in more than a year. That's how grim it's been at pros.
Depressing for someone like John Lacey too. Boy, I'll
Look
tell
at
you what,
Harkonnen.
on the braking and in the corners, the McLaren is just so vastly superior. But as they come to these straights, and that BMW probably got a long way to go yet. So tremendous horsepower out of this new BMW engine, completely rebuilt for this year. New engine, lighter, more powerful. What a
Again, clouds
Yeah.
of brake dust coming out of those front calipers, and the wheel rims there are breaking down into that one. And now he's got exactly the same situation to do there. You know, long straight, but it's all a matter of all really the McLaren needs to do is just keep pressuring him, and I think the Williams is going to break.
2 laps to go. He's running out of time, though.
He's really running out of time. Now they've caught right up with John Lacey. It's just going to be to see what Mazzacani it is in front of him. It's going to be
Think back to Hakkonen's amazing move on Schumacher at Spa last year. He is one of the great overtakers of all time. Remember his moves in the French Grand Prix 2 years ago.
Mazzacani there making it very easy for these two guys to continue their race to the end. That's a good move there by Mazzacani.
This would be a great feather in Ralf Schumacher's cap. I'll tell you, if he could hold off Mika Hakkinen. And he is doing a beautiful job. Great drive by Jos Verstappen earlier, and now, of course, by Schumacher Jr., as they call him.
Did you see the disc glowing inside the
Yeah.
the Williams?
Look.
1,000 degrees temperature increase there very rapidly. And boy, the problem is as well, of course, that the more material you wear off these discs, the less material there is to dissipate the heat.
Yeah.
And the temperature rise increases.
Either they get red even quicker, don't they?
Critical failures.
Mika
Everybody-
Hakkinen with 18 wins. Ralf Schumacher, no wins. That's a comparison of... Oh, look at that. Is there anything left on that
There
disc?
can't be much left. Look at this.
Look at Hakkonen's got him set up this time, though. He's got a...
Well, but right there, at the,
Yeah.
he's quicker all through the corner. Then right as they come off the corner, the Williams is either a better chassis, has better grip, or a lot more torque in that very critical range because he pulls away. But look how he catches up going into and through these long corners.
He caught him so fast that you would
But
have
as
thought he would sweep
as
right
he
by.
comes off, just can't administer the coupe de grace because the Williams just leaps off the corners. They must have very good traction and
Ralph,
very good grip.
And Ralph runs just the right lines to keep him at bay through these complex corners, these left-right combinations.
Brake dust was making you cough there, David, wasn't it, coming off the car there?
What a race this has been. We've seen outstanding individual performances
Here we
all
see
through the race.
Michael Schumacher is just starting his last lap. I would think he's just starting his final lap going down into turn 1. So just 1 lap away from an all-time record. 6 wins from 6 pole positions for Michael Schumacher and 6 wins in a row for the first time that's 6 wins and 6 poles in a row. And of course 6 wins, be the first driver since Ascari in 1952-53 season to do that feat, who has got 9, so he's got 2 more to go to get the all-time. And Jimmy Clark came very, very, very close to it in 1965. He actually voluntarily missed one race to do Indy, which he won, so you could almost count that. But setting up for more records here for Michael Schumacher.
And this guy, you see no lack of commitment year after year. Like I was saying before, you know, I don't see this man peaking at the moment. He might have peaked at his driving ability, but enthusiasm for the job is no less now than the first race when he took part in 91.
And this, of course, will be his 46th win overall. Alan Prost has 51, so that's only 5 to go. He might do that in succession. He might get to 10 wins in a row. Certainly didn't look like he was going to get 6 wins in a row this afternoon when he skidded off onto that gravel trap, but luck was on his side and he didn't hit anything.
And he has a lot of that with him.
And you need it. To be a champion like him and Alan Prost and Ayrton Senna, they all had a tremendous amount of luck going with them. But of course, as we know, it doesn't last forever.
Last turn.
Last turn for Michael Schumacher. Coming off the turn. Checkered flag is out. Michael Schumacher comes over to the pit wall.
History.
Signals the crew. History is made. 6 wins from 6 pole positions in a row. First time ever. Rubens Barrichello follows him across the line in 2nd spot for another Ferrari 1-2. A magnificent effort on all parts there. Here he comes across the line, taking the checkered flag. He too will be getting the accolades of the crew. David Coulthard in 3rd spot.
Pushing hard right to the end.
Pushing hard right to the end in the McLaren, having led early on by a long way, and then Michael Schumacher was chewing him up at 5 seconds.
Look at this.
And this is that race.
And look
Heinz-Harald Frenzen's in 4th spot there, going around the last corner for the last time, and right behind him is Ralf Schumacher, still holding off Mika Hakkinen. This is 4th, 5th and 6th. So Ralf Schumacher picks up the first 2 points of the season for the Williams team, and Mika Hakkinen picks up his first point of the year, but now he trails Michael Schumacher by 19 points going into the 3rd round in Brazil in just 2 weeks, which will be on here live. Don't forget, it'll be on. Qualifying is at 11 o'clock in the morning on Saturday, and at 12:30 lunchtime we have our pre-race show in the race on Sunday. 12:30 lunchtime, don't forget, in 2 weeks time. This is not the middle of the night stuff coming up. And there's that brake dust over the bodywork like we saw in Australia, which we were wondering whether it was heat or brake dust. And again, a lot of brake dust on that car. Obviously their new ducts work, Steve.
They seem to be working remarkably well, but great heat haze coming off the cars, of course. You know, it's very hot, but look out now. Michael will take every possibility to pick up any marbles he can on those tyres, just to add as much weight as possible to that car before it goes onto the weighbridge.
Oh, he wouldn't do anything like that.
Well, yes, he would.
They used to put weights in the drivers' helmets and switch helmets out in the Trans Am days. So you have your 40-pound helmet sitting in the seat casually. Not as big a crowd this year because it's only 5 months after the last race here, which of course was the last race of the season last year. It's expensive to come to a Formula One race. So a few stayed away and they missed a classic event. Great event. This track, I think, went a long way to establish a kind of character for itself. Steve, we had talked about it being a little soulless, but I think the ease of the opportunities to pass and the monsoon conditions, a very memorable event.
Surprisingly, after the monsoon conditions where we had a spate of retirements, the only person to drop out once the race got going, again after the safety car pulled off, was Giancarlo Fisichella, who dropped out in the Benetton.
From an insignificant place. The basic leaders stayed in position.
Ralf Schumacher, no doubt, very pleased, as will Gerhard Berger from BMW, Dr. Tyson from BMW, and of course Frank Williams and Patrick Head from Williams. There's Michael Schumacher gesticulating to the crowd. Not a bad crowd on hand, but nothing like they'd hoped for.
And it makes no difference really which country it is that the host of the Grand Prix. Ferrari flags, Ferrari flags, Ferrari flags. And as we've said before, there's only one team in motor racing in Formula One that has such a strong following of fans for that team. It's almost regardless of who the driver is. You know, I can remember when Michael was driving for us at Benetton, there was a lot of blue flags in the stands at Hockenheim, but as soon as he switched over to the Ferrari, all the stands in Hockenheim were full of red Ferrari flags, but those Ferrari flags fly the world over for that team.
One of the strongest brand names in sports, and in fact brand names period, is Ferrari. Unbelievable as it may be to Americans, Manchester United Football Club in England is probably the strongest brand name in sports, ahead of even Ferrari. Seems hard to believe, but there it is. So Michael Schumacher gets out of his Ferrari, having scored his 6th consecutive win from his 6th consecutive pole position. Wow, that is a record.
Let's have a look how hot he is. This will be an interesting one when the helmet comes off. Will we see Michael sweating?
Rubens Barrichello gets out, having driven a very good race into 2nd spot. I think they're hardly any sweat on his face again. I can't believe it. His hair's dry. I don't understand this man. He's like Superman. As we watch Michael Schumacher looking at his competitors' cars, we'll take a break and we'll be right back with more in a moment.
Welcome back. We're just moments past the finish of the Malaysian Grand Prix, and you are seeing the 2 Ferraris that finished 1st and 2nd. They look absolutely smug and dominant there in the Parc Fermé, and of course the car alongside them is David Coulthard's McLaren. And for all the events that took place in this race, with the rain descending and the many cars leaving the track, it still worked out that it was a Ferrari-McLaren result at the end of the day.
The biggest disappointment would have to be, to me, Jarno Trulli and Heinz-Harald Frentzen. Heinz-Harald Frentzen finished in the points in 4th spot. Jarno Trulli had looked so strong on Saturday morning, qualified really quite well in 5th spot, and somehow, after all that, ends up 8th behind Jos Verstappen, who
I would say that's got
to be the man of the race, I'd say, and a huge disappointment for old Jos Verstappen that he actually did not get a point in the end.
And here is the man who has now won 6 consecutive Formula One races, reaching right back to Monza of last year. That was Labor Day of last year.
Well, there you see History in the making. 6 wins out of 6 pole positions. First time ever achieved by a Grand Prix driver. First time we've had 6 wins in a row since Albert Ascari in 1952-53. There's the Prime Minister of Malaysia giving the trophy to an exuberant route of Michael Schumacher, and I will always say this about Michael Schumacher: since his very first race, when he wins a race, boy, he looks like he is happy to do so. And that was always a thing that Senna and Prost always looked like they were, you know, something wrong with them. I mean, I couldn't understand it. Rubens Barrichello, I think, while the national anthem was being played there, had a moment of reflection. He knew he'd had a brilliant second place, but he also knew that after all was said and done, he was 31 seconds behind his teammate. Here you see the champagne coming now. Ross Brawn there getting soaked well and truly as they spray their crews down below. David Coulthard, no doubt, pretty happy to have got some points. We'll take another quick break now. We'll be back in a moment to see these drivers, and obviously this is what they have to say in the press conference.
Welcome back to post-race action here. Just after the finish of the Malaysian Grand Prix, you see the spectators bailing out. The rain that we thought might come in the second half of the race did not materialize. That cleared off, and so most of those people you see there are at least pretty dry. But remember how hot it is here, over 100 degrees ambient temperature. So you see people dressing lightly. But I think the main thing, David, is Schumacher has achieved this remarkable record of 6 consecutive wins, but he also cannot be overlooked. He now has 20 points toward a defense of his world championship.
He has 20 points. His teammate has 12. David Coulthard has 8, and Mika Hakkinen has 1. Ralf Schumacher has got a couple of points now, and Heinz-Harald Frentzen added to his score this afternoon and has got 5, so at least he's sort of in the points there, not where they wanted to be, I'm sure, but at least getting something. There's some of those Ferrari flags you were talking about, Steve. I mean, everybody's got Ferrari flags. So let's hear what they've got to say about it.
2001 Malaysian Grand Prix. It's Michael Schumacher, Rubens Barrichello, and David Coulthard. Michael, many, many congratulations. It's your 6th win in a row, but on the team radio, when on the slowdown lap, we heard you saying to Rosso it was a bit boring at the end. Was it boring at the beginning?
I didn't say boring. No, you must have misunderstood something. I said it won't be as easy for the future. We have to keep pushing. No, you can't call this race boring. It was very exciting. I mean, I thought it was all finished by whatever lap number when the rain started, and I went off the circuit. I was seeing the barrier already very close and thinking, that's my part now. And then I saw Rubens just coming next by the same corner. So actually, we were lucky that the car stood in shape and didn't get heavily damaged, and we were able to do the race we did finally.
Now, once the safety car came in, you were about, I think, 5 seconds a lap faster than everyone else. Why was that?
First of all, I think we had intermediate tires on compared to some drivers had rain tires on, and I think that it's a bit of a difference. Although I was behind Jos, and Jos, he was flying. I mean, he was on rain tires. I think he was the fastest car basically out there. And I thought it would be a lot easier to overtake him, but he was going very well, and he made it very difficult to me.
How much of a gamble, and whose decision was it to put you on intermediate tyres in the middle of a monsoon?
It's a driver's call, actually. And we knew that if at all it's going to be a shower, we might struggle for a number of laps, and it will be better for the end, and that's the way it was.
Thank you very much, Michael. Rubens, you too were involved in those incidents in the first 2 or 3 laps, and it culminated in you having a very, very long pit stop. Talk us through all that.
Well, you know, I told Ross like 1 lap before win off that he was actually speeding down a bit, and when I saw Michael going off, I was too close to him. My car was handling quite well at that time, and then, you know, out of turn 5, I saw him going straight. I had no time to do anything. If I had a spin at that time, I would have actually collect Michael right in the middle. So I was lucky to recover and, you know, get going. it was a shame that actually a pity that I couldn't pit stop go to my pit at that time. Because I mean, we took the decision to stay on the track, and you know, all of a sudden, I think I spun 3 or 4 times again. There was a lot of water on the track, and but we made the good choice on the tires, and unfortunately, the pit stop took so long. I mean, it was going quite well. All of a sudden, I saw one of the mechanics putting a slick tire on my right side, and the engine was already too hot. Everything was running hot. I saw Michael behind me. I didn't know what to do, so basically I had to calm down and go again.
Now, I think at the end of the day, Michael made 1 stop and you made 2. Was that always the plan? That's petrol stops.
Well, I mean, I tell you, Michael is a hell of a driver, and but I wish I could have a little bit of his luck as well, because I think when he went off, he didn't collect as much stones as I did, so I had to stop once more to clean everything basically. So at the end of the day, he got it.
I think during the course of the race, you actually lost both your barge boards. How did the car handle with those items missing?
You know, I think we have a good car, a fantastic car, actually. I mean, the best car I ever driven, like I have said. Once I came on the radio to tell that I saw some bits of the car flying, and that's basically was some of the barge boards and maybe the brake duct or something. But I ran off the track 3 or 4 times, so the cars are very robust, but I mean, they're not off-road cars, so basically that's the story.
Thanks, Rubens. David, you started 8th, but at the end of the safety car period, you were 1st. Was that great driving or good luck?
Well, I wish I could say it was great driving, but of course, it takes a lot of luck in those circumstances, and when I saw both the Ferraris going off, that gave Trulli, who was running in front of me, a bit of warning, and it gave me some warning, so we stayed on the track, and obviously it was quite clear we would have to come in, even though it was only half wet on the track and the other half of the circuit was completely dry. But coming into the last corner, both Jarno and myself spun, but I managed to keep it going and come into the pits. And at that time, we thought it was the right decision to go for full wet, and clearly with that amount of water, it was. But as the safety car then came out, you can be sure that you're not going to start driving again with so much water on the track. So in hindsight, intermediates would have been a better tyre, because we had to run the wets a long time, and I was losing a lot of time obviously to the Ferraris when I was waiting for the slicks.
Again, the two of you, Mika and yourself, made a different fuel stop strategy, 2 stops during the race and 1 for yourself. Was that always planned?
We were flexible in the circuit, especially given especially where I qualified, and certainly for Mika as well. You have to try and leave an element of flexibility there, because we knew the weather was a little bit dodgy, so it was 50-50 whether we'd have a wet race.
Hey, David. Michael, in the past couple of weeks, you've amassed 6 consecutive wins, which is a modern-day record. You've gone to 33 poles, which is 2nd all-time. You now have the most fastest laps of any driver and the most kilometres led. Is that important to you?
It's nice to listen to what you said, yes, but honestly, at the end of the day, it doesn't count as much as how many races you win or how many championships you win. And on the other side, it depends as well, how do you win it. And I'm obviously more keen on the results we achieve, because we have worked very hard to achieve them, and that is what counts to me.
Thanks, gentlemen. Very well done. And now a word from Michael and Rubens, their own languages. Michael.
So effort equals results is what Michael Schumacher is saying. We will be back in just a few moments as the post-race show continues. We have a good deal left to show you, so stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Now let's take a look at the Delphi Auto Systems race recap, beginning with the results. David?
Mike, 2 Ferraris, Michael Schumacher, Barrichello, Davy Coulthard 3rd, Frentzen getting into 4th there, Ralf Schumacher, great run into 5th, and Mika Hakkinen into 6th, getting his first point of the year. Jos Verstappen, a wonderful race for 7th, Jarno Trulli, not such a good race rate. Alesi in the Prost, Bertie in the Jag, Button had a pretty miserable race one way or another. Gaston Mazzacani there also in the Prost. Alonso, the youngest driver here in the Minardi, with Tasso Marquez behind him. Then Fisichella, Villeneuve, Heidfeld, Bernaldi. All these guys, of course, out of the race. Some of them very early on. Juan Montoya, of course, an early loser on this race. Eddie Irvine was out, and everybody spun up in that early rain.
And
there you
let's
see
take a
the
look
points.
at the driver's points, David.
Michael Schumacher, 20. David Coulthard 10, Rubens Barrichello 10, Heinz-Harald Frentzen 5, Mika Hakkinen with 1, and Räikkönen with 1. We'll be right back with more of our post-race show in just a few minutes. There you see the constructors' points.
Welcome back, everyone. Coming up in 2 weeks on Speed Vision, it's the Brazilian Grand Prix. We'll have live coverage of qualifying on Saturday, March 31st at 11 a.m. Eastern, and the race at 12:30 p.m. Eastern on April 1st, April Fool's Day. And now let's take a look at some of the highlights of last year's race in Sao Paulo.
Well,
David?
the front row is all McLaren, but Michael Schumacher made a stunning start. Mika Hakkinen held him off there as they go down into turn 1 for the first time, and the field all streams through. Barrichello dropping back to 4th there. At the end of lap 1 with a lighter fuel load, Michael Schumacher goes down the inside of Mika Hakkinen and takes the lead. Almost at the same time, Rubens Barrichello in the other Ferrari goes past David Coulthard in front of a huge home crowd, snagging into 3rd spot there. And then, a few laps later, he gets around Mika Hakkinen taking 2nd. So now you've got a Ferrari 1, 2, and the crowd went crazy. Eddie Irvine crashed the Jaguar there fairly heavily, but disappointment. Rubens Barrichello is out with an engine problem. Then, just a few laps later, Mika Hakkinen also out with an engine failure and pushed it straight to the guards. Late in the race, Jenson Button there takes a position away from Jos Verstappen. That 7th position he takes away, which ultimately would become 6th as David Coulthard was disqualified. So on the podium, you've got Schumacher, Coulthard, and Fisichella. We'll be right back with more from Malaysia in just a minute.
Welcome back to the Malaysian Grand Prix post-race show on Speed Vision. Let's take a look at how we thought the race would unfold with a review of the Audi storylines.
Well, would Michael Schumacher get 6 or 6? Yes, indeed, he absolutely did, and is now the sole holder of that title. 6 races from 6 pole positions in a row.
Well, as far as overheating is concerned, I think the cars and the teams were saved by the rain again, pretty much as they were in Melbourne. But tyres obviously played a huge part. Not so much the different constructions of tyres, but whether or not they should use wets or intermediates. That's what played into the hands there.
And the BMW power was decisive in enabling Ralf Schumacher to hold off Mika Hakkinen and score that 5th place at the end of the race. So BMW power, definitely a factor. Now we will be back with more in just a moment, so do not go away. Stay with us. Welcome back, and thanks for staying with us. Now, once again, the results of today's Malaysian Grand Prix. David?
Well, there you can see the results. A 1-2 for Ferrari. A good run there by David Coulthard from a poor qualifying position. Mika Hakkinen was lucky to squeak in that point. Jos Verstappen was dead unlucky not to get a point. Truly had a mediocre race in the end. Alonso Marquez, a couple of the last ones, and all the rest of those runners all out fairly early on, mostly sliding off on the race.
Time now for the Toyota key move of the race.
And we think the key move was probably this incredibly protracted pit stop of Barrichello. And I don't know whether while they were thinking about it and they saw the safety car go out, you can see how much water's on the field here, which had convinced David Coulthard to put full wets on. Look at that river running across the road there. The Ferrari boys decided to put intermediates on, and of course after the safety car had been out, that's what they needed. Look at that.
Well, that's about it for our coverage of the Malaysian Grand Prix, round 2 of 17 in the Formula One World Championship. Our next race is the Brazilian Grand Prix in 2 weeks. For a complete recap of today's race and all the racing news, log on to speedvision.com. I'm Sam Posey for David Hobbs, Steve Matchett. See you in 2 weeks, where we will see if that man right there, Michael Schumacher, can make it 7 in a row. See you then.